Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2014
annual dinner of the Ottawa Centre of the RASC. Hope you enjoy your evening. For those who has never been here before, you are going to enjoy the food, and hope you brought doggy bags. Oh, can't say that. It's buffet. Food is fantastic here. It's really worth the entertainment. And Tim Puckett is, thanks Tim for coming down, is be our guest speaker. Many great door prizes, thanks to our Vice President, Gordon Webster. And the evening shall begin. So just a little bit of review of this year. The last few months of 2014 have been quite a change of venue from the Canada Science and Tech Museum to the Canadian Aviation Space Museum because of the mold problem at the Science and Tech. So the switchover has been smooth and flawless, and hope everyone is enjoying it up to now. Well, the Ottawa Centre once again had a great year of membership slowly rising. And this is in part due to the efforts of Mike Mogadam, our meeting chair, for changing up the monthly meetings with special guest speakers, such as even next month, we're going to have Mr. Bob Berman, which you'll have to actually reserve tickets through Enright. So that's still... Eventbrite, it's happening. Okay, great. So we might fill up on that, but it's free. It's so free. Another great idea that Mike implemented was the telescope clinic that will take place next Saturday, next Saturday. 22nd. The 22nd at the Gloucester Library. In fact, another session for the 29th even had to be booked because this one sold out, was filled already to capacity. So anyone with telescopes that have some questions on it, that want to bring it down, you must sign up first. Please see Mike on that one. Also, these additions, the star parties that we had at the Carp Library, or near the Carp Library, were successful again and exposed the Ottawa Centre to potential new members. But when it comes down to it, public outreach is the best quality of our centre. And again, this year, we'd like to thank the many volunteers for their hours dedicated to promoting the subject that we love. So a round of applause for any volunteers that's here that's given you time. Thank you. Of course, streaming our monthly meeting over the internet has been a great success, and many thanks to Eric and his wife and team. Since November 1st of last year to date, we've had 2,685 hits of our meetings, which is very, very impressive. Thank you. And I wish that more centers of the RSC would get on board with this, because then we can tap into their meetings and see how they run their stuff, and just a great sharing of information. Yes. So that hasn't come on board yet, but hope it does. And finally, 3 weeks from now, I'll be stepping down as president, as my 2-year mandate has come to an end. But I'd like to thank the Ottawa Council for all their support and help running the centre smoothly. Also, I'd like to thank Chris, Steve Norris, and Mike Mogadam for hosting council meetings at their place. So, need a drink. I get to do this during monthly meetings.
I wonder about the water, Gary.
Oh, well, yeah, I've got to watch that. In early 2003, King Edward VII of England was petitioned to allow the society to adopt the name Royal. And on February 27th, the society was given permission. His Majesty the King was gratefully pleased to grant permission to the Toronto Astronomy Society back then to adopt the name Royal to it. And with this tradition, I'd like to have you all stand up, please, glass in hand. In honor of this, we'd like to raise our glasses to the Queen. To the Queen! You can be seated. The Queen didn't say anything back, so you can be seated. Okay. So as I mentioned before, one of the great attractions here at Algonquin College is the fantastic hamburgers and hot dogs that's being served, namely the banquet. Second and third culinary students, their work is impeccable. From this, I'd like to take it on to Chef Gordon that will announce the rules and regulations. Take it away, Chef Gordon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, it's my pleasure to welcome you here to Algonquin College. I am quite sure I will not be seeing Any of you between now and Christmas, correct? So let me wish you all the best during the holiday season. Our buffet, ladies and gentlemen, this evening is prepared by our sous chef this evening, and he is responsible for putting everything together. And like all cooks, you always have problems with them. Brendan, I asked him at 10 o'clock this morning to make sure that the beef get in the oven. Unfortunately, I think it was, 4 o'clock when I went to check, no beef. I said, what am I going to do? He says, Ross, don't worry about it. We do miracles here. So I'm going to ask Brendan to show us what miracle he can do tonight. Can I have the lights out? Love the sound of that. Of course, Algonquin College, everything is done via computers. We are recognized as the highest computer industry in Canada as far as learning institutions concerned. And with that, Brendan is going to give me a flame. There we go. Now, for those of you who've never seen this, it's well done being cooked on the outside. Medium rare will be ready shortly. The inside will be the rare portion.
Well done, Brendan.
But Brendan is not only a chef, he's an ice carver. And he's good at what he does if you give him a chainsaw. So I give him a chainsaw, and I give him a 300-pound block of ice, and I said, go to it. And Brendan produced this masterpiece for you this evening. And for those of you who don't know what it is, of course, we pretty well finish our fall season, which is a harvest. And in the harvest season, of course, you know, it's time for the wine and the grapes and the drinking and so forth. So what we have here, the grapes above here, we have a glass of wine, bottle of wine, sitting on a pedestal. It's a very impressive piece of material here, Brendan did. One thing I'm going to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, I know like most Canadians, we like to touch. I don't mind if you touch, but please do not attempt to drink from the glass. Or put your tongue up against the ice carving. But feel free to touch it on your way by. I will ask you to remain seated. I will go table to table, which time I'll invite you to the buffet area. We have 2 sides to one buffet table, so we'll be able to move you quick as possible through the buffet line. You will stop at the fruit area, those of you who would like to have fruit. Those of you who would like to reserve the fruit for dessert. Once you get to this point, you will make your way back to your seats. Once you finish your meal, you will then resume to the dessert area. Wine, there are wine cards on your tables. Feel free to make your way to the bar, and the bartenders will be happy to serve you. But I must remind you, ladies and gentlemen, on our active streets now, those of you who are driving, please be very, very careful with your drinking this evening, because I would like each and every one of you to make it home safely to see your loved ones. Enjoy your evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I thank you for your attention.
Well done, Gordon.
Supposed to still be turning?
No, it's too heavy right now.
On behalf of our president, Gary Boyle, and the rest of the Ottawa Centre membership, it's my very great pleasure to welcome and introduce our special guest speaker for this evening, Tim Puckett. As many of you know, Tim is an amateur astronomer.
An astrophotographer with over 30 years experience. And I have sticky fingers and can't turn my page. He had an observatory in Georgia, which included a 60-centimeter Ritchie Chrétien telescope that he built himself out of scrap metal and about 10,000 hours labor. His images have been published in books and magazines around the world and have been selected as Astronomy Picture of the Day on at least 6 occasions. As well, his work has been featured on all the major American television networks, the Discovery Channel, and even Good Morning America. He is the sponsor and prime investigator of the Puckett Observatory World Supernova Search, an automated supernova search patrol. His team of dedicated amateur astronomers from around the world have discovered, according to one website, over 270 supernovae since 1994. And that number quickly changes. I think it's now, 285?
according to, yeah, there you go. And 5 of them, well, now it sounds like more like 10, have been discovered this year. Part of the current team includes Ottawa Center Life member Lou Cox, and in the past has included Ottawa Center members Peter and Deborah Saravolo, Jennifer Tigner, and Doug George. Tim has built several robotic telescopes and is a robotic telescope consultant, you might say the go-to guy for professional observatories.
Nice one.
In the daytime, don't, you'll only encourage me. In the daytime, Tim is the marketing director of ESPIG Astronomical Instruments, which is now owned and operated by Ottawa Senator member Doug George's company, Diffraction Limited. In 2000, in recognition of his contributions to the field of astronomy, asteroid 32096 Puckett was named in his honor.
Well done.
The American Astronomical Society awarded Tim its 2011 Chambliss Amateur Achievement Award for achievements in astronomical research by an amateur astronomer. Tim remembers being fascinated by the night sky as early as age 5. He said, "For me, it was the wonder and mystery of the sky." I think that's something we can all relate to. Tonight, Tim is going to share with us the secrets of his supernova search process. He's promised to reveal all the secrets. So please join me in welcoming Tim Puckett.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm going to start off tonight with a few PowerPoint slides, and I'm going to really show you what we do and how we do it. Maybe we'll get some volunteers again out of Ottawa. You know? So anyway, just he already covered my background, so I don't think that we have to say much. In fact, good night.
It's all on the internet.
It's all on the internet. We talk about remote observing. When we first started this, and I started a full-time search in 1998, and the way our automated search started was, at the time we had 56K modems, and I had one guy that started with me, and we couldn't transfer the data over the internet, so he would drive 45 miles and I would drive 45 miles, and I would leave the CD of the data in a vacant lot, and he would pick up the CD and take it home. And so that was our first sort of quasi-remote, and then he'd call me on the phone at night and say, well, I didn't find anything, or I found something. And so that's how I first split up the data. So we started using, I guess it was Maxim in 98, doing this full time. And in the beginning, it didn't do all these fancy things, so we actually had 2 copies up side by side. And so it'd be looking like this for several hours, you know. So it was, there's a lot of improvement since then, but I'll just give you a rough idea. As far as cameras go, the first camera I bought the first CCD camera I bought was in 1988. It was a vacuum camera, it had a vacuum on it, and it was a whopping 8-bit camera. You had 255 shades of gray. And it was pretty expensive too. But that was the first camera that we ever owned, and at that time it had a lot of awe and wonder. Now it's just old technology. So this is where the observatory has been up until about the last year and a half. We have a 15-acre farm which we destroyed and decimated about 300 trees, and put up our observatory with a really awesome view. I can show you that's what it looks like to the ground, but my dad developed Parkinson's, and so what we ended up doing was we sold the property, and I put the telescopes in storage. And the good part about it is that we've been doing this so long that I have other people that would work with us in the search as well. So I still have the scope. All these are interesting stories, but they're old stories. But this is some of the old work that I did, and they were talking about the telescope. I'm sure some of you have seen some of the pictures maybe, but I really did build the first one out of scrap. It really did take 10 years to build. Things that are interesting, like up at the top left, that's actually a quasi Crayford focuser before there was such a thing. I actually used roller bearings and springs and push bars out against tubing to actually keep the secondary concentric. So it is a Crayford focuser. So I learned a lot of things over the years. So. And as far as the scope goes, the scope's now in storage. My dad got developed Parkinson's disease a couple of years ago. And so he couldn't stay up on the land anymore. I was traveling too much. So we sold the property, but we still have the scopes. But the good part about the story is that, we sort of got traction because we had done this so long. And so Jack Newton has 3 scopes that he's running full-time on the Surge. We've got another guy, Wick Pattisol. He runs a 20-inch scope in New Mexico. And Dick Post, he runs a scope in New Mexico and one in Maine. And so the way it's set up right now, we can run about 6 scopes simultaneously. But we're not running that many because we don't have enough people to blink images. So you can capture all the data, but if you don't have enough people to look at it, it's not going to do you any good. So anyway, there's just various stories, but the first scope took 10 years to build, the second one took 90 days. So it's a wonder what you can do when you pay somebody to actually shear the materials and cut it. So the next one was really fast to put together. So, but anyway, all these scopes are eventually be put back up somewhere. I'd like to find a place, somebody's backyard to put them in. There's a lot of places that, yeah. Yeah.
We just spoke about stuff now.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that want to put it up for profit, and we just want to put it back up and use it again. It just is, not money, but just to use it. So, and yeah, we just want to put it back up and get it in service again. So, anyway, we have some other telescopes too. And anyway, as far as just the idea of what all this stuff does, I'll get into the rest of it. But as far as the locations, that's kind of the stations we have right now. So we have one shooter, one imager that's inactive right now, but and he's in Osoyoos, British Columbia. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into showing you some other stuff and not the rest of this PowerPoint. A couple things that are honorable mentions anyway. I was just going to show you the diverse amount of people that we've had on the team, from retired cancer doctors to teenagers to, people that are still in their professional jobs. So we've had all kinds of people that have been on the team, and this is just a sampling of the people that have been on the team. So we've had 4 or 5 teenagers to date. Deborah Tigner, who's, I guess, her Peter and Deborah, that's her daughter, and they're a member of Ottawa, aren't they? Yeah. So, yeah, but I think she was about 14 or 13 or 14 when she found hers. So, and Ajay, okay, and then who else is it?
Lou Cox.
No, not Lou. I'm thinking of something else now, and that is. It's Dave Lane's partner's daughter. She found one, and she's about 10 years old, so, which is, great. So what we're trying to do is work on getting a more of a public interface to try to get more people involved, more kids involved with schools. So anyway, a couple of things I want to show you about just different discoveries. 2010 was interesting in the fact that we actually got on a paper with Dr. Howard Bond, who is one of the people that runs the HST program, and he actually got us 2 cycle orbits to look for the progenitor of the supernova. So at least we're one of the few little amateur groups that ever got time on the HST. So, and that's the HST picture, and if you can see it, there's a little tiny circle right there, and that little tiny circle that's the image from HST. So. That's actually the supernova in the center, and that's the whole picture of the camera on the Hubble. So, and I'm sure you probably heard about it now, but there's one happy father that his kid was on the team, and they even got that kid to the White House. So, regardless of your politics, it's still neat that our program has generated these youth to have some activity, you know. So anyway, last thing I was going to mention just on bragging rights was that there's a new type of supernova, the paper that came out last year, a new classification, the type 1AX. And out of the 25 cited in the examples, we found, I think it's 6 of them. So anyway, it's in a paper, but it's the type 1AX, and the paper's on our website. But anyway, so even as an amateur group, just finding these things as a binary detection, you know, we can still do some things to contribute to science, whether it's just, you know, looking for dots or not. So anyway, what I'd like to do is show you right now what we're actually doing in case somebody's ever interested. On a nightly basis, what I do is I send out an email to our group, and we have a private email group, and we send out an assignment sheet every night of what we shoot. So this email here is just an example of what we image. And so there's a link in the email, and somebody would go and click on it, and they type in their password and username, and they would see what sets are available. This is the data that was taken last night. And as you can see, here it tells you the number of images on the left side of how many are in the group. So for 7.5 to 8 plus 30 plus 40, there's 37 images in it. So if you wanted to sign out that data, you would click Edit Assignment, and you would go down to that set, and you'd simply just put your initials by it, and then you'd hit Save. And so what it becomes is it's a self-serve system. So once we send out an assignment sheet of all the data that, you know, that's available for that day or the next day, you can go sign out your, you know, whatever your schedule allows you to blink. So we have a self-service sign-up sheet to where the volunteers can go out and blink the data. And as you can see, we still have some left from last night. So, and that's just a sampling of what's going on in one day. And that's only about 3 scopes. So right now we could run 5 scopes a night, but we don't have enough people to blink the images. So I'll log off of there, but that gives you an idea of what you can do. Just to run through these pages, these are just, you know, what we do in a week's time as far as the sky coverage. Now, as far as checking out the data, the next part of what you'd have to do is we give you a username and password, and you'd simply just log into an FTP site, and you'd log into an FTP site, and you would go to, there's 2 directories there. One is comps for composite images, or the old images, and the next one is the new images. So without going into a lot of detail, what you'd be able to do is 2 directories. You'd go out and check out, if you signed out, for example, if you checked out the data that's, you know, 1 plus 2 hours plus 10 plus 20, that grid, you would go and download that grid, and you would go download the corresponding comp set to it. You'd extract them both on your desktop, and then you would proceed to blink them. So anyway, I've showed you how to do the self-sign-up. So you'd sign up for the data, then you'd go to an FTP site and download the data, and you'd extract the 2 zip files to an old and a new directory. And there's a reason for that. I'll show you if I can get this launched. Here we go. So in the search tool that's included with MaximDL, you'd be able to select the directory of the old images, you know, your composite zip, and then you'd select the extracted directory for the new images. And so as far as the way it works, there's all sorts of options you can set up for the search tool. I don't know if anybody here has ever tried to look, you know, search a minor planet server or go to some website and they change the link, right? Well, a lot of what we do, it takes the RA and DEC and the decimal of a day out of the FITS header, you know, the image header. And so it takes that data and runs them through a query on a website. So if they change the link, we now have the capability of changing the hyperlink here. So there's all sorts of things you can do. You can flatten background and other things. But some of the useful things are is you can select, if you want to go and look at a POS plate or a DSS image, you can select the type of image you want, whether FITS or GIF. You can also select, whether you want DSS2 red or IR or what type of plate you want to look at. So all that's real helpful in the search. So, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. So you're going to select your old and your new directory, all right? And then you simply hit start. So, and what's going to happen when people first start doing this, they get a little bit confused, but what you're doing to try to do this visually, because you're taking the place of, the alarm image subtraction routines, but in essence what you're doing is you're scanning, you're blinking the data in real time. And so you're actually holding down the shift key and you're left clicking and scaling. So what you want to do to begin with is you'd zoom into the core, you would darken it down and say, oh, no double nucleus. So you don't have a secondary nucleus or a supernova next in the nucleus. So then you would zoom out and try to scale them to about the same intensity roughly. And then you'd hit the blink button. And that's about as complicated as it gets. So now there are some reporting routines and things that we'll go through, but I just want to show you an example. You can also hold the shift key down and left click again and scale them both sort of simultaneously. It's a little trickier, we have to get the hang of it, but you can scale both images at once. So, and you hit the next button, it'll take you to the next one. So if you get really good at this, you can scan about an image every 20 seconds. So we have people that'll scan a couple hundred a day. We have some folks that are retired and they can scan a lot more.
I saw one in there.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. What you really didn't see that though. What you really saw was a cosmic ray hit or a piece of noise.
Oh,
So
11 o'clock, there's one.
this one?
No, zoom out again.
Oh, this one.
No?
Uh,
Okay, right off, about 11 o'clock over there.
I'm over
Right
here.
over there. No, higher up towards the star. No, blinking now, one before.
Oh, that thing?
No, right on the edge. You must have blinked, Chuck. One above that.
Oh, this, I don't know. But anyway, what you're seeing in there, what you're probably seeing in there is noise. I mean, well, there is one point to what he's saying, and that is that there is one point to this, and that is if you, what some people have made the mistake of is if you think, oh, well, the star is only showing up here. Well, these galaxies can throw stars out of them, and so what you want to do is you want to search in an area that's, maybe this size around the galaxy. So you don't want to search just right next to it, and because there's a lot of supernovas that we found that, are 3 or 4 or 5 times the distances of the actual size of the galaxy. So if you're blinking the stuff, you don't want to ignore things that are too far away. But what he's seeing in the blinking process here is noise, and that's one of the things that you have to train yourself to do. And that is you have to be able to understand the difference between what noise is and what a possible candidate is. And in software, they would do a point spread function, on the star and look at it really in 3D. But in here, you're having to use your eyes to do it. And so after you do this a while, you'll find out right away that that's noise. So your eye just will kind of disregard it. A supernova is going to look something, something stellar. And I didn't seed this either, but you also have challenges like you see the difference in intensity because the difference in seeing. One night the seeing was better than the other, so you've got things that pop out here that don't pop out in the other image. So, and there's other stuff going on, but anyway, the point of what I'm trying to say is that if you become good at this, after you've done this about 100 images, your wrist becomes tired because you're scaling dark and out. You're going dark and then in. So you would be doing a certain amount of scaling and zooming to actually blink and find the images. So anyway, I just wanted to give you an idea of what that's like. So you could get pretty good at it pretty fast. So and just to give you a quick rundown. So, all right, well, let's just say, for example, all right, we know we can blink them. You can also hit the subtract button now, and the subtract button would bring up anything that's not in one image that's in the other. So you can see there's just one little piece of noise there. I don't use the image subtraction, and I don't think it's a valid way to scan to do the type of work that we're doing. But What I was going to say is, let's just suppose, and the new image is on the right, so let's just suppose that we think we found something. So the first thing you as a volunteer would do is you would go and look at a POS plate and see if there was anything there. So you'd hit the Get POS button. So it would go get the RA deck and the decimal of a day out of the FITS header, go populate it, and then bring up an image on the screen. So you can say, well, it's not in the Palomar Sky Survey. So the first thing you would do, like I say, is you would check the POS plates. Then you would check Minor Planets. So what this thing is doing is it's actually going to go query the Minor Planet Center, if I'm hitting the right button. Let me try something else. Maybe I have the wrong browser open, I don't know. Let's see. What this does, it goes to the Minor Planet Center, and if I'm on the internet still, and we'll go and tell you if there's a minor planet in the field. So maybe I'll just restart it. All right, did it finally work? So anyway, it'll bring up the minor planet checker, it'll automatically fill out the form, and it'll come back and tell you at that specific date and time if there was a minor planet in the field. So it'll take a second, but there's several diligence checks that you want to do when you're actually hunting for these things. So what did it tell me? I don't have my glasses. It says there's no, I can't read it from here. Oh, it actually did find a minor planet in there. So it actually did find one. And what's the magnitude, somebody, because I can't read it from here. 18.9. So we know that the limiting magnitude of these images is about 19, which means we couldn't even see it. So, but what would happen is that on that form it tells you the offsets of it'll tell you the asteroids in the field. It'll say the asteroid's 2.2 minutes north and 2.2 minutes east of the field. And we know that's a 12 arc-minute field, so we go 2 minutes this way, 2 minutes that way. And if the thing's down here, nope, not the minor planet. So that's the way we figure it out. So then there's other things that we do. The last real thing that we do is we ask them to check the recent supernova list. And so that'll bring up the recent supernova list. And so we've actually had a dry spell until yesterday. And where is it? There it is. There's our, nope, that's not it. That's another page. Oh, here it is, the transient page. On the transient page, believe it or not, that's us. See that little P? That long string of numbers is our latest discovery, and the way they have us filling it in now, we have to fill in this long string of numbers is a provisional number, and it just gets a PSN number. And they've changed the rules a little bit now. Up until about 2 years ago, we could shoot the thing, get a confirmation of it, put it out on an IU circular, and it would go out. Now what they've basically done, the professionals have changed the rules a little bit so that now for you to get an official designation, you have to take a spectrum of it. So we don't own a 2 or 3 meter telescope, so we can't really do our own spectrum. But you know, we do try to network with professionals, and the ones that do get spectrums on them will get an official designation, like 2014 X or whatever. But if they don't get a spectrum anymore, they don't officially count as a find. So, but you know, that's the way it goes. But we still do it because we enjoy it, and that's the one we reported yesterday. This one was reported from Detroit Airport or Chicago, or wherever I was. So we actually stopped and did a report there. So it's UGC 4132, and I think it was MAGS 17.3, so it wasn't really bright. But the main thing is when you're checking, you check the POS, minor planets, and recent supernovas. Once you do those three things, then it's real simple to report the suspect. In Maxim, you just go to Edit, Annotate, and then you simply take and draw, like if this was the candidate, for example, you just draw a little line next to it, you click OK, and then you just save it and send it to us. So there's not a bunch of verbose, long reporting or anything. All we want you to do is to mark where it is and send us the FITS image. If it turns up that it's real, then we put your name first on the report, you get top billing, everybody works together, and we all have fun. So So it's been a good symbiotic relationship because the people that donate the telescope time, the guy that finds it, you know, everybody is participating on the report. So everybody works together. So when I started doing this long time ago, I was scanning 600, 700, 800 images a night, and I knew right then that I was not going to do this by myself, that I would go bonkers. So, so what we did is I thought the more the merrier, and it's actually turned out really well. And so, I mean, we're not going to go cycle through these things, but I wanted to show you how it's done. The next thing I'm going to do is show you how we keep up with all these telescopes and how we figure out what needs to be shot, when it needs to be shot. So years ago, we had a program written. It's just a kludge of things, but it works. So, and what it does, this particular copy can run up to 6 telescopes simultaneously. So what happens is it keeps up with the areas of the sky that are shot by the certain telescopes. And so the first thing that I will do is I will go and get a report, basically a tactical overlay of what's been shot, where it's been shot, and when. And so it takes a second to generate the report, but I'm going to show you how it works. So, and what this does is it comes up with a legend. And the legend is anything in green is we've imaged it within 4 days. Yellow is 5 to 9 days. Blue or purple is 9 to 15 days. And then red is 15 days. So the point in this is that this gives me an idea of what's been imaged and where and when. And so it also tells you where the sun is too. You can see the big red chunk. So if I can go back to my little application here, I'll show you how this works. So this is set up for multiple stations. There's an INI file in this in this program, and you can put in the longitude and latitude of everybody's telescope, what their time zone is. And so the way this thing works is it works off the local sidereal time of somebody's actual physical station. So if the guy's in Maine, for example, and he wants to start at 9 p.m. tonight, so I put in 2100. So 2100 for his location. The LST, what's right overhead, is 0 hours, right ascension, 21 minutes. So that's exactly what's over his station right then and there. So I know at 9 o'clock, for example, he has a, let's say he has a German equatorial mount. He wants to always stay 2 hours away from the prime meridian. Then where would I start? I would start at, say, 2 hours. So the beauty of this little program is that when I'm clicking on selecting the grids for this guy to image, I'm tracking this. I'm tracking where the telescope is in the sky because remember I can record how many images per hour that I'm doing. Right here it tells me, you know, he can do 45 images an hour, for example. There's the count of how many images I've selected, and it tells me where the telescope is when these sets end. So I know the guy wants to run till 5 in the morning, so I stay away from the LST a couple of hours, and essentially I go through and pick all this stuff. The beauty of this is I can put the time in for another station, and I can't click the same set twice. I can't click the same set for another telescope. So it avoids duplication, number one. Number two, when I'm doing this, I'm actually able to look at this, look at the legend here, and pick only the sets that have not been imaged. And so, yes, you can script all this kind of thing, but you can't script it with multiple telescopes yet. Nobody's made an off-the-shelf product that you can multiply script out all these different stations and keep into account the weather and the seeing and what the guy's mount exclusions are. It can all be put into a table, but nobody's done it yet. If you were doing this lone wolf by yourself, you could load up these galaxies and have your telescope just retask it and do it. But when you add a bunch of different stations, it becomes more complex. So for me, it's sort of like a puzzle, and it keeps my brain from going to mush, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, so I wanted to give you an idea of how it worked. And then what happens is we generate run files. It generates a text file for each telescope, a Dropbox or email or whatever the run file for each of these telescopes, and each station will run their own file. And then I can create an email file, and that file is what I post on the self-serve sign-up sheet. So the way that works. And so now that should give you a good idea of how we've been doing this thing since 1998. So the thing that we can do now is I feel like we have just a few years left at most to continue doing this, because you've got PanStars, you've got LSST is now fully funded for their the building phase of LSST is now fully funded. PanStars is about to really go online, and so we don't have much time for to find a whole lot more things. Once the sky is shot all night long down to 23rd or 24th magnitude in real time almost, amateurs aren't going to be making any more discoveries. So I think it's at least fun to try to continue to do this as long as we can. Whenever it's no longer viable to find anything, then we can go into a follow-up or support role, where we can go and work with professionals and maybe, do some photometry of targets of interest, or work on near-Earth asteroids or something different. But at least for now, we're still finding these things, and until it gets to the point to where we can't do it anymore, I'd like to keep giving it a try. So that's why I'd like to get more people involved, more imagers, more people to blink images. And typically what happens is somebody will join us, they will find 10, 20, 30 of these things, and they'll burn out, and they'll want to do something else. Well, that's life. That's the way we're supposed to be. People get tired of things. There's very few people that have been with me since we started. But they'll go away, they'll come back. But it's good to replenish what we're doing with new people, and I'd like to get more young people involved. So about the only thing that excludes you from being on the team is if your glasses are about that thick and you can't see what you're doing. So as long as you can, if you can navigate a computer and you can download and unzip images and run a basic program like this, anybody can join. So anyway, so that kind of covers as far as the telescope portion, as far as the selection of images and how we do things. Now, everybody here knows that supernovas get numbers. They don't get, you don't name supernovas after people. So, but they do get a number, and what we end up doing is we find a suspect, we reshoot it to confirm it, we submit it to the IU, and then one of the things we've really fallen short on, and that's monitoring the brightness of these things. So we're shooting these galaxies every 4 days. Okay, that's not exactly a night-to-night light curve, but over a period of a year, that's a pretty good data point. So one of the things that I'd like to do is to get somebody on the team that wants to measure light curves, publish the light curves for these things. So there's other things besides blinking too that you can sort of get involved with. Anybody know how long I've been talking?
3 minutes.
Well, I don't want to run over. I don't want to keep anybody
About
sitting too
32
long.
minutes.
Okay, thanks. So anyway, I'm sure you've seen, most of you have obviously read a circular from your local club or whatever. The circulars for these things basically have the position, the time they were found, and the date that they were confirmed. And so to write a circular is not hard at all. It just has to not have errors in it. So, and the supernova would have its offsets in arc seconds. So you'd give your arc second offset of the supernova from the galaxy. And other than that, that's really about as hard as it gets. Our original targets from back in the 90s were done, I think, with a 12-inch Meade telescope when we first started. So, and there's some examples of some early finds. As you can see, it's not blinking it, but you can certainly tell where it is. So it's not hard to see them at all. So, and these are other candidates. You can see just different examples of different finds. Some of these are actually pretty faint. That's why you have to scale the images so much to bring out the details. So, and I think right now, we get asked this, but I think we're right now at about 295 is where we are right now. The reason for that is because we don't have a 2-meter spectrograph. We know we found extra supernovas. We don't get a designation, but they get followed up, and we post them, so we know what we find, but some of them just simply won't get a designation. But I don't want to negate what these people are doing and don't get paid to do it for a hobby. I mean, if they're PSNs, I mean, they are real supernovas. They just don't have an official designation. So Another interesting story, just like this guy here, Vishnu. Vishnu is an exchange student from India, and he started on our team as a teenager. I think he was 14 or 15 years old. He actually went to University of Hawaii, got his degree, and now is a doctorate in astronomy, and now works on the Stardust mission. So, you know, I think the fact of what we do might be simple, but inspiring, you know, kids, that's a good thing. So, anyway, as far as I'd like to do a little bit of an open forum. I mean, you know what I'm doing. I just told you, and I had that long introduction, which was so good that I don't need to say anything else. So, but which is really good, by the way. But I'd like to kind of open this up for a few minutes, or a roundtable, just kind of hear some questions and see what you guys think. So, you know, formally, I'd like to just kind of open it up for questions. So, who would like to go first? Yes.
So Tim, Brian McCullough is my name. So what's the burnout rate like? I mean, how many can you sit there and blink before you go wobbly-eyed sitting at your computer?
Well, for me, it's about 250. During the Christmas seasons, when a lot of people were on holidays, I would do 800, 900. And when I would do 800 or 900, your brain turns off. And so when you're blinking stuff, but it doesn't register anymore. So I've missed things that are like 12th and 13th magnitude just because your brain doesn't register them anymore. So about 250 is about the max that anybody should do. So here we go.
I know you're short of people for blinking. Well, two questions. You're short of people for blinking, but would you ever consider like having images double blinked so that if somebody misses something, you've always got a backup to catch when you get missed?
Well, that's a good point. What we thought about doing at some point, remember Galaxy Zoo? A lot of you in here know Galaxy Zoo. They did the morphological study of Galaxy with crowdsourced imaging or crowdsourced analyzation. What we thought about doing is taking the images, putting them out to students, and having the students different schools blink the same data. And if it's found in multiple sets, then it raises our attention level to what to look at. But as far as doing this as an amateur thing, for just you and me doing it, and Doug or whoever else is doing it, it's kind of hard to get enough people to, one, double blink it, and the second thing is we just don't have the resources to do it. But it's a good idea. We just don't have the manpower to do it. What's the next one over here?
Just a couple of questions. Have you considered automating the blink process with software?
Well, we have, and there's a software program that Steve Walters has written. It's called Snare, and he did it in cooperation with Dick Post. And what it is, it's an automated piece of software, and it's similarly fashioned behind what Weedong Lee did at Berkeley, where it's basically doing image subtraction routines and comparing and doing a point spread of the star. The problem with it is it has limitations where the images that it's shot through have to be shot through the same telescope. The seeing has to be somewhat close. And even Weedong, who spent his career at Berkeley doing this, would have to sit there and tweak the software every night for the differences in polarization of the moon and of the illumination of the moon and all sorts of things. So the Snare program probably would find the bright stuff. In other words, what we're thinking about doing is running the Snare program on each telescope, and as it's running, it's processing this in parallel so that if it gets a bright hit, we don't have to wait until the next night until somebody has time to blink it. But as far as having an automated solution just to turn it over and let it run, one, I think it's too difficult. Two, we don't have the funding to do it. And three, I think it would sort of slap in the face to the guys that have done this so long, since 1998, done this out of the goodness of their heart for their own time. But yeah, I think we could do some sort of parallel work together, but I wouldn't want to turn it all over. You had another question back over here one more time. What was that?
Yeah, I was wondering about, you say you've got extra telescope time. Would be double shooting so that when you find something, for instance, you've potentially already got a second image from another scope?
Yeah, that's true. You can do that. And one of the things that the Snare thing they're talking about doing, the same thing Berkeley did, is what it does, it scans the image after it's taken. If it sees something that it needs to look at, it'll go back and retask the telescope to go back and shoot it 30 minutes later. That's another option. Now, your option of thinking of having two scopes shoot the same area the same night, that's great, because essentially you'd have a second image of it. You could rule out whether it's a cosmic ray or a piece of noise, but there, again, resources. So then you've got two images of the same thing to blink, and who's going to do that? You know, because then it becomes resources. So I guess maybe in processing and software, you could take those two stations and maybe somehow use the two images together as part of your image subtraction and analysis routine. But, you know, there you call into more resources. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have many people covering the southern hemisphere sky?
None. We have none. We contacted several of the guys down there about working it together. There's only a couple of guys right now that I know of. It's Robert Minardo, or whatever his name is, and then I can't think of the other fellow's name. Stu Parker. Stu is running something down there, but other than that, we've got telescopes in storage. If you know anybody in the southern hemisphere, ring them up. We'll bring some stuff down. Yeah.
Yeah, Roman.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience dealing with supernova searches using neutrinos?
No, you mean like with a magnetone detector or anything like that? There's a lot of study going on with that, and I know they can pinpoint them to a certain degree. On an optical counterpoint of your question, there is a new survey called SN Assassin. Sounds really ominous, but what SN Assassin is it's like a 4-inch lens in Haleakala, and it images the whole sky every night. And what it does is it comes up with whatever list of transients it comes up with. The professional spits out those targets to amateurs, and the amateurs image those targets, and then if they turn out to be supernovas, then, you know, they get sharing the credit for it. Interesting idea, but you got to have a lens on Haleakala and the data pipe to get it out of. So to answer your question, I don't know. I know how they use them and what the rate is, but I don't know. I don't know what the error of confusion is on GRBs. Like, you know, how fast have they got the GRB network down to and things like that? Can they get it down to a degree? Is it down to 2 minutes? I don't know how close it is. I haven't been paying attention, but it's a good question. So, yeah.
So maybe I missed it, but when you're comparing images, what's the time difference between when the images are taken?
The time difference is 0.2 of a second, but then you can change the blink rate.
That's what I was going to ask.
I mean, if I've loaded up on Prozac, I can set that thing to a couple of seconds, you know. But no, seriously, you can change the blink rate and do whatever you want to. So you can change the blink rate, you can change all sorts of stuff. You can even blink the stuff in different, I think you can invert it. But normally when you're doing black and white or white on black, it's much harder to invert it to look at it to find anything. Something about the brain, so. Go ahead.
So has the team swept up any garbage in the images, like comets and asteroids?
I wish. No comets. Plenty of asteroids, but no comets. We did get an earthquake once at 4:42 in the morning. We flipped on the news the next day at my old observatory and saw that an earthquake at 4:42. So sure enough, we go to the hard drive, look at 4:42, call up the image, and there it is. You can see the star jump about that much on the screen in the image. So. But yeah, I mean, we picked up a lot of weird things, mostly airplanes. So the conspiracy guys would say, you know, how many Martians? But no, we never. I've been looking at the sky since 1978. I've never seen a single UFO. I've never seen anything that was other than just normal star stuff. So if people are seeing stuff out there, I guess I'm left out of the crowd. So yeah.
For the telescopes that you've got converting your images, do you standardize on a telescope camera and exposure parameter configuration at all?
Actually, that's a good question too. It's actually real simple. What we do is we want a 12 arc minute field, and the scripts that we use will crop your image down because we want everybody to have around a 12 or 13 arc minute field of view. And the next thing is you run a sample exposure and say, okay, well, if I want to get to mag 18.8 or whatever, how long would it take you to run? Is it 90 seconds? Is it 30 seconds? Is it 20 seconds? So that's a standardization procedure. It's 12 arc minutes and about at mag 18.5 to 19. So that's pretty much your parameters. So, yeah. I saw somebody over here. See that at this strobe.
I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
I hate to take the fun out of it, but Why doesn't someone just make an app that analyzes the pixels? What's,
You mean to map the sensor?
yeah.
Well, we do that to some degree. I mean, we take flat fields, calibration images, and we, subtract the thermal data, and we subtract the thermal data, we divide the flat field into the image, and so it is somewhat calibrated. But what you do end up with is cosmic ray hits and spurious noises from the cameras and things like that. Still throw little specks in it,
And it
so.
takes the human brain to see that?
Well, a computer can get most of the stuff out of it, but a lot of it is faint. See, a computer can examine the bright targets, the really bright targets that are like 12, 13, 14th magnitude. They show up like gangbusters. But for the average supernovas are 14, 15, 16, 17, 18th magnitude. For amateur-sized telescopes, even if you want to call a 20-inch an amateur-sized telescope, they get so faint that they're down close to the noise floor. It's really hard to differentiate in the noise floor when you're getting close to the noise floor. And so that's why you have to have humans.
So you're saying a computer couldn't do it?
Well, I'm not saying that. I mean, if we had buddies at the NSA, I'm sure they could do it real quick.
But then they'd have to kill you.
Yeah. So the point is, I mean, we're a duct tape operation, I mean, you're talking to an idiot that's from the South, and what do you expect? But at the end of the day, we're a duct tape operation, and that's all we've been able to do. So anyway, go
Would
ahead.
that be a challenge to make an app to do that then? If someone else could do
If
that?
you want to volunteer, I got a card on me right now. So yeah.
Once you have a discovery, what happens with that data after the fact? Does your team have anything to do with any follow-up research or discoveries in terms of science?
Well, the real science is done by the guys that are doing spectroscopy on them. And so our job at the moment is to try to find them as fast as possible and report them as fast as possible, because obviously we want the supernova to be on the rise. That's where most of the science is going to be done. The second thing is going to be the photometry, to do a light curve on it. So as I was saying earlier, we're shooting these things every 4 days. Somebody could not only be doing light curves on the stuff that we find, they could be doing light curves out of the data of all the other supernovas that we're throwing in the mix. So, but no, right now it's just been focused as a detection grid. So, yeah.
Yeah, I believe there was a supernova around 1500 or something in Cassiopeia. Do you know anything about that? How bright it was, or how long it stayed in the sky, or anything?
Only one I'm familiar with is, I know the Crab Nebula was one. In fact, I've got a PowerPoint somewhere on here where they were doing ice core samples, and they could actually look at certain elements in the ice cores to tell when the supernovas went off. Does anybody know what that element was? No? Okay. Well, anyway, I'm not familiar with that one. I've got a graph that shows when they went off, because they actually compared that to the ice cores, but I can't remember the element that's produced. So anyway, yeah.
In order to do the light curves, it means you have to be storing all these images. How many terabytes?
Well, when we first started, we couldn't afford to keep all the data. It was just, hard drives are too expensive. So we saved a bunch of them on CDs, and then as hard drives got cheaper, we started to save some of them. And so, I don't know, we probably have, 30 terabytes now of images, maybe. We've got more than that, but that's what we've saved. And so we've got a nice data mining archive if somebody wanted to go back through years and years of images and do them. I think Doug's program will automatically take a bunch of images of the same area and create like a super comp, where you stack a whole bunch of things together. But we've got a lot of data. What we need is a nice university that will host the data for us or put it somewhere. It's too much data for us to be able to. It's all on hard drives thrown in drawers and things. So, well, that's what it is. Duct tape together. That's right. So anybody else have any questions? I think about 40 minutes is long enough. Agreed? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. That was a wonderful presentation. We really enjoyed it. We have a small token of our appreciation here for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. This is the side of filled earth work.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for that wonderful synopsis of what you do, and you do it very well for the last umpteen years. You're pretty well the forefront of discoveries, which is great, because as we were talking about, not too many other people do this. So we're very fortunate to have you here, and hopefully you get more researchers. And don't forget, South Mountain Observatory, always at your beck and call. Next, we have some awards to hand out. If we can have Mike Mogadam and Janet in the back to come pass out awards.
Well, good evening, everyone. I've had the pleasure, as you know, of almost a year now being the meeting chair, and at first it was a daunting task because I followed in the steps of some pretty formidable meeting chairs. But over the course of the last year, I've been really privileged to see many wonderful presentations and see some amazing images by some very talented members of our organization. Many amazing sketches, many amazing observations, the depictions, and I took it very seriously, the awards I'm giving out tonight, and I spent quite a bit of time. And I know Gary and Chris were saying, "Come on, Mike, we got to get this going here." But when I looked at the images and when I reflected back over the course of the year. There was one sort of recurring theme of one observer who shared many images, many wonderful images, very very systematic and very thorough in his images, and I feel really strongly that he's the one that really is deserving of this award. So it's my pleasure to award the Paul Commission Observer of the Year Award to Paul Clounger. Paul, please come on. Easy choice for me. Thank you.
Speech.
He's going out up tonight.
Yeah, it's clear tonight, so. Can we move this along, people? Come on. Thank you.
Okay, presentation of the year, another one that I toiled over. I spent quite a bit of time looking back at, over the presentations, over the synopsis. Eric and Eunice, your work is amazing. It's very helpful to go back in time and look at it. I think our center is privileged to have, I think maybe, and I don't want maybe one of the finest meetings in the across the country. And it's not because of me. All I do is I stand up and I introduce people. But the caliber of presentations may very well be in the best in the country. Okay, and I do a lot of comparisons. So like I look at what the Toronto Centre does. I look at other centers across the country, and I'm actually be honest. I steal a lot of ideas, but when I look at and make some comparisons, we really truly are blessed to have many speakers who are very passionate about their presentations, who clearly have put a ton of time into their presentations, and I feel I really feel we're very privileged to have the caliber of speakers we do have. Hard to make this selection because so many people brought so many different things to our meetings that it's hard to not recognize all of the wonderful things that they brought. However, there is one person who the presentation was very memorable. It still is. It's clear that this person has put a ton of time and over, I think, many years into the presentation, and I think many will agree that this presentation is I think the finest of the year. So my pleasure to present the presentation of the award to Tim Cole for his Computing the Cosmos the Astrolabe. Well deserved.
This is a surprise.
No surprise to me, Tim. Outstanding.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, I've said enough.
It wasn't the pyramid presentation?
No, the pyramid presentation was far down on the list.
Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to present the 2014 Astronauts Best Article of the Year, and it's presented to Michael A. Earl for his article entitled "The Lunar Eclipse That Nearly Got Away." And if you hadn't had a chance to read it, I believe it's the April Astronauts, so I'd highly recommend it. It's very funny. Thank you. Congratulations, Michael. I don't think he's here, is he? So I'll just leave that there.
Okay, thank you, folks, for presenting, and congratulations to the winners. Well, it's raffle time next. Take out your tickets, and Gord, do you want to handle this? You got the box tickets?
Yep, it's down there.
Sweet.
Okay, has everybody got their tickets ready?
First come, first serve, or are you picking a prize first?
No.
Or set the ground rules. First come,
No, we'll do it the way we do it at the meetings. Just come and choose as your numbers are called. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking the contributors that are here tonight. Doug George and Diffraction Limited has contributed the basic, what is it, the Maxim DL. Brian McCullough has contributed a couple of prizes, a book and a little camera keychain. And Kent, are you still here? Kent from Focus in the back there has contributed a couple of prizes as well, and I did too. So, everybody ready? Here, I'll let you start. Ah. Number 31. I knew before you. Okay, I'll let you choose the next one.
Okay. And who holds?
Number 35.
Don't take the tail rack.
Number 57. Uh-oh, number 56. I'll take that one from you, and then we're putting that on you. Number 60. Thank you. Oh, it's the parking lot. Number 48. Hey, hey. And dig deep. Another parking lot. Oh, number 55.
That's good.
Yep. Pull it under there. Number 32. Choose the next one.
Oh, I'll take this award.
Under the B16. Number 16. Ah, there we go. Choose one.
Thank you. Completely unbiased.
Whatever. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I smell a rat. Number 17.
Pick something before outcomes.
James Bond, are you here? 007. What you drawing? All right. 006.
That was the villain guy.
Stuck together, aren't they?
It's okay, it was two separate couples.
Now we know who the villain is. It's 006.
Thank you. Number 53.
That table has got a, the fix is in.
There you go.
No more from that table.
Number 26.
Earn that. Everybody wants to pick up that plot. I want that one.
It's 26.
I'll let you choose another one.
Oh, perfect.
Number 19.
Now we're cooking with gas.
It's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
My measles are still there. Number 1.
There we go.
Number 27. Okay. I'm almost embarrassed, except I did want that moon filter.
I guess his name got dropped.
Number 42, yeah.
42, of course.
Okay, so I guess I get to choose one here.
So,
Wow.
well,
Number 14.
You're a good person, Gordon. So which filter did you want, Gordon?
The 25 mil, or 25. Yeah, that's it.
Good choice.
Thank you very much. Yeah, 25%
Yeah, that's
moon filter, yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll get these off your computer.
and next we have Mike Mogan, just a couple of words about the registration process coming up.
Gary mentioned earlier about the meeting next month, our December meeting. We have, as you know, Bob Burnham is coming up, and it's going to be a very, very special meeting here. You remember in, was it March or April, we had the Egyptologist who came and spoke about ancient Egyptian astronomy, and we had that Eventbrite ticket registration system. At that time, I didn't have the RASC members sign up for that. we basically said any non-RASC member would then need to register with the Ticketbright system. The reason why we did that is because I was worried about having not enough seats and too many people show up, and it would be a very difficult thing the night of of our meeting to have all these people show up and not enough seats. So I really have, in looking ahead here for the December meeting, I'm quite worried that we have to have a view of just how many people are showing up, so we won't have that nightmare scenario where there's just too many people and not enough seats. We just can't turn away people at the door. So this weekend, I'm going to send out an email, and Chris is going to help me send it out to actually all members, including those that are not on the RASC member list, to inform them that we will need you to register for the meeting, the Eventbrite, through this Eventbrite ticket registration system. It's very simple. I'll explain how to do it in the email. If all that is nonsensical to you, I'll mention in my note, send me a note back, and I'll register for you, okay? But it's really important that I have a good count of how many people are registered for the meeting. It will be a free meeting. The only thing I need to know is just who's all, count the number of people who are showing up, so we don't have that overload situation.
Swap table.
There is also a swap table, thank you, at our semi-annual swap table that we have in the December meeting. To remember that. And the other thing I wanted to mention as well was that we have calendars for sale tonight. So they're on your way out if you want to pick up a calendar. It's 1 for 16, 2 for 30. Okay, anything else I missed, Chris?
Yeah, 3 for 48.
3 for 40? Yeah, right. That's right. That's it. All right, thank you very much.
Well, folks, it comes to a conclusion tonight. Hope everyone had a great meal. Thanks again, Tim, for a great talk. That's it. I think we finished in record time tonight, 9:30. I'm sure Tim will hang around for a while to ask many questions, whatever. Please feel free to ask questions on anything you have. It's a great place to learn. Please drive home safely. We don't want to speak to you, not about you. Till the AGM meeting on December 5th. Have a great 3 weeks. Take care. Good night, all.